Before the world knew its name, a single breath of fire stirred in the east, destined to become a roar that would shake the pillars of heaven.
A warrior is not born from peace, but forged in the relentless heat of struggle and the silent promise of a crown yet to be won.
Unity was the dream, a tapestry woven from 1,000 different cultures, held together by the vision of one man who saw beyond borders.
In the shadows of the throne, the blade remains the ultimate truth, guarding the legacy of the bloodline with unspeakable courage.
Every empire begins with a handful of dust, and the unwavering belief that it can be turned into gold.
An order given in silence can echo louder than the greatest shout, changing the fate of millions with a single drop of ink.
The rhythm of the march was the pulse of the land itself, a heartbeat that grew stronger with every mile conquered under the blazing sun.
To protect the future, one must walk unseen among the people, listening to the whispers of the wind and the secrets of the crowded streets.
Power is not found in the height of a throne, but in the weight of the justice dispensed from it.
The ocean carries the salt of our tears, yet it is the same water that will wash away the sins of the past to make way for the new dawn.
The map of the world is a living thing, breathing and shifting as the shadows of the great conquerors pass over it. Mastery is the daughter of repetition, a relentless pursuit of perfection that turns a mortal into a myth.
Information is the blood of the empire, flowing through the veins of the earth to keep the vision alive in the furthest reaches.
A king who does not bleed with his people will eventually find himself ruling over a kingdom of ghosts.
The pulse of the battle is a chaotic symphony, where the only notes that matter are survival and honor. Wealth is but a tool, a means to build a world where the spirit can flourish without the chains of poverty.
Truth is the light that burns away the darkness of deceit, a flame that must be guarded with one's very life.
Greatness is measured not by the size of the monuments we leave behind, but by the peace we leave in the hearts of those we rule.
The pulse of Persia is eternal, a rhythm that began in the dust and will echo through the halls of history forever.
Truth often breathes in the dark, whispered by the stones that have witnessed 1,000 betrayals.
Every gate opened is a destiny embraced, a threshold between the man he was and the legend he must become.
The horizon is not a limit, but a beckoning call to those whose hearts beat with the rhythm of the tides.
To shape an empire, one must first understand the nature of the forge, where raw strength meets purposeful direction.
A river of fire flows across the plains, a living testament to a will that refuses to be extinguished by the night. The spirit of the predator is not found in its hunger, but in the calculated patience of its strike.
The desert does not forgive the weak, it only remembers the footsteps of those who survived its fury.
Kindness is a more potent weapon than the sword, for it conquers the soul, while the blade only claims the body.
Precision is the silent language of the elite, a single moment where focus and fate become one.
The weight of a crown is not felt on the head, but in the silence of the night, when the cries of the people echo in the mind.
Freedom is the ultimate prize, a sky without borders for those brave enough to spread their wings. Knowledge is the bridge across the ages, a conversation with the dead to guide the footsteps of the living.
Even the fiercest storm must find its center, a place of stillness before the next wave breaks.
The time has come to declare our vision.
Yes, my lord.
A law written in stone is powerful, but a promise written in the hearts of men is eternal.
Loyalty is tested in the dark corners of the world, where no one is watching, and the cost of honor is blood.
Victory is a heavy burden, seasoned with the salt of sweat and the iron of sacrifice.
The path to glory is rarely the one seen by the many, but the one discovered by the few.
Each thread is a tribe, each color a culture,
Together they form a masterpiece that no single strand could achieve alone.
Scars are the medals of the soul, stories of survival etched into the skin of the brave. Though their paths are different, their hearts beat to the same rhythm, the pulse of a nation that will never sleep.
A letter can be a bridge or a barricade, a thin line of ink that determines the life and death of thousands.
Strength is not found in the absence of scars, but in the resilience of the metal that refuses to break under the hammer.
The most powerful alliances are often whispered in the dark, far from the prying eyes of those who fear change.
To lead an army, one must first master the self, subduing the chaos within before facing the storm without.
An empire is not built of gold, but of the heavy stones of labor and the steady rhythm of 1,000 hammers.
Even in the height of celebration, the mind must remain a fortress, vigilant against the sweetness that masks a bitter poison.
Symbols are the anchors of a people, a reminder that we are part of something far greater than our fleeting lives.
Silence is a weapon, but the truth is a fire that consumes everything it touches until only the core remains.
Time has come. The bond between a rider and his mount is the secret engine of conquest.
A flag is more than cloth. It is the heartbeat of a nation, a signal to the world that the pulse of Persia is rising.
A true ruler knows the hunger of his people as intimately as he knows the weight of his own sword.
Fate may throw the dice, but it is the hand of the bold that determines where they land and what the prize shall be.
Trade is the silent conqueror, weaving the world together with threads of silk and the persistent clinking of silver coins.
We fight the wars of today so that the children of tomorrow may only have to fight the battles of the mind.
To cross the uncrossable is the mark of a visionary, turning the obstacles of nature into the pathways of progress.
History is a labyrinth of secrets, and only those with the key of courage can unlock the wisdom of the forgotten kings.
The highest peaks are not reached by speed, but by the steady, rhythmic pulse of a will that refuses to turn back.
The cost of change is often written in embers, a painful fire that clears the way for a more enduring structure.
The greatest victory is not the one won on the battlefield, but the one won in the hearts of those who were once enemies.
2 lives, 1 vision, and a pulse that now beats in unison with the very soul of the earth.
Beauty is the silent language of the divine, a gentle pulse that reminds us what we are truly fighting to protect.
The stars provide the map, but the heart provides the direction, a steady beat that never wavers even in the blackest night.
To bring life where there was only dust is the ultimate act of defiance against a harsh and unforgiving world.
The strength of an empire is found in the discipline of its shadows, the silent guardians who strike before the enemy even breathes.
The hunt is a mirror of the throne, demanding a perfect balance of patience, power, and the wisdom to know when to strike.
Pain is merely a guest in the house of the brave, a temporary shadow that cannot dim the light of a resolute spirit.
Legacy is not a destination, but a climb that requires the strength of those who came before and the courage of those who follow.
In the garden of power, the most dangerous thorns are often the ones that are never seen until it is too late.
The sea is the great unifier, a vast blue highway that carries the pulse of Persia to the ends of the known world.
True riches are not found in the quantity of gold, but in the rare and brilliant moments that define a lifetime.
The pen is the architect of the soul, building structures of thought that can outlast the strongest walls of granite.
The sun is a relentless judge, stripping away the pretenses of the weak until only the core of the warrior remains.
A king's greatest treasure is the joy of his people, a rhythmic pulse of celebration that echoes through the streets.
The past is a whisper that can become a roar if we only have the ears to hear and the heart to understand.
Stability is the foundation of freedom, a solid ground upon which the dreams of 1,000 generations can be built.
Fortune is a fickle mistress, but she favors the one who is bold enough to seize the coin before it hits the ground.
Leadership is not found in the distance between the king and his men, but in the shared warmth of a common fire.
Every dawn brings a new battle, a chance to prove that the fire within is stronger than the storms without.
Respect is the currency of the wise, a gold that never loses its value, and a pulse that beats in every human heart.
The story of Persia is the story of us, a pulse of life, a breath of fire, and a legacy that will never fade.
Even the greatest of kings must face the storms that no army can defeat, those that brew within the silent chambers of the heart.
A broken promise is like shattered earth. It can never be made whole again, leaving only scars and the bitter taste of betrayal.
The true test of a leader is not found in the halls of plenty, but in the white-hot furnace of the wasteland where hope is the only currency.
Trust is a fragile thread in a world of shadows, easily snapped by the weight of greed and the cold pull of ambition.
Isolation is the price of the crown, a lonely height where the wind speaks in the voices of those who wish to see you fall.
A single traitor can poison an entire well, turning a kingdom of brothers into a den of suspicious strangers.
The tolling of the hour is a reminder that time is the only enemy that cannot be conquered by silver or steel. The dead keep their secrets well, but the living will tear the world apart just to hear them whisper one last time.
The cost of an empire is written in the ashes of the innocent, a heavy debt that the pulse of history never truly forgets.
When everything is stripped away, only the raw will to survive remains, burning brighter than 1,000 suns.
Mercy is a luxury the weak cannot afford, and a burden that the strong must carry until the very end.
The final sting often comes from the hand that once held yours, a sharp reminder that loyalty is a gift, not a right.
To control the elements is to play the role of a god, a dangerous game where one mistake can wash away a lifetime of work.
Love is the silent casualty of war, a pulse that beats in secret while the world demands the cold iron of duty.
Enough! A kingdom divided against itself is a feast for the crows, a banquet of bone and silver for the patient hunters of the dark.
To move forward, one must sometimes burn the bridges to the past, letting the flames consume the weight of who we used to be.
The winter of the soul is the longest season, a time of quiet reflection before the violent rebirth of the spring.
Fear is a frantic drum, but courage is the steady rhythm that keeps the feet moving when the mind begs for rest.
The pulse of Persia is not found in the crowds, but in the quiet understanding between two souls who carry the world on their shoulders.
The stars are watching, waiting for the pulse to falter, but the heart of the empire beats on, defiant and eternal.
A true conqueror does not break chains to forge new ones, but to let the pulse of 1,000 hearts beat as one.
In the silence of the workshop, the soul of a nation is polished until it shines brighter than the sun on a winter's morning.
The empire is a garden of minds, where every language is a flower and every thought a seed for a future we will never see.
Shadows do not speak, they act. They are the rhythmic pulse of a defense that never sleeps and never falters.
Distance is the enemy of unity, but a road built with purpose turns a journey into a homecoming.
The blood of the land is sweet, a reminder that even in the heart of war,
Monuments are not built for the dead, but to give the living a pulse of courage when the world turns cold and dark.
The heavens hold the rhythm of our fate.
does it guide the blade or the crown?
Harmony is the ultimate conquest, a delicate balance where the lion and the lamb share the same shade.
To forgive is a royal decree, but to remember is the warrior's burden, keeping the pulse of the law steady and true.
The greatest wealth of Persia is not in its vaults, but in the stories of those who dared to dream of a better world.
Reflection is the mirror of the soul, a quiet pulse of truth in a world that is always shifting and changing.
To bridge the gap between enemies is the work of a lifetime, a pulse of connection that defies the rush of the river.
The warrior's rest is never silent. It is filled with the echoes of the pulse, the drumbeat of a heart that has seen too much.
The hearth is the heart of the home, the pulse of warmth that sustains the spirit through the longest winter.
Small things hold the greatest power, a tiny pulse of life that can humble the mightiest of kings.
A new era has dawned, not of blood and iron, but of light and the persistent pulse of a shared destiny.
Words are the silent arrows of the mind, flying across borders to strike the heart of the matter.
Faith is the pulse of the spirit, a many-colored light that shines from the same source of eternal truth.
The vision is complete, the pulse is steady, and the heart of Persia beats for all who seek the light.
The pulse of a throne is often measured in the secrets it keeps, a silent rhythm of shadows that dictates the fate of the sunlit world.
Treason is a weed that grows in the dark, but the blade of the loyal is the sun that withers its roots before it can bloom.
Strength is not found in the height of the stone, but in the unity of the hands that placed it there, a heartbeat of labor for a future of peace.
A guardian is a shield that never cracks, a pulse of defiance that stands between the innocent and the hungry wolves of ambition.
News travels on the wings of exhaustion, a frantic rhythm of hooves that can bring a kingdom to its knees or lift it to the stars.
Character is forged in the same way as the crown, through intense heat, absolute pressure, and the courage to lose one's original shape.
The pulse of history is a heavy drum, echoing through the corridors of time to remind us that we are merely guests in the house of greatness.
In the Garden of Whispers, the most beautiful blossom is the truth, though its thorns are often tipped with the coldest poison.
The sea is a vast, blue heartbeat, a reminder that the world is far larger than the borders we draw in the sand.
The smallest stitch can hold together the greatest vision, a humble pulse of care that preserves the dignity of the empire.
Wisdom is the echo of the past, a rhythmic pulse of knowledge that prevents the present from repeating the tragedies of the old.
The night has 1,000 eyes, but the protector only needs 2, and a heart that beats in time with the safety of the sleeping.
A king who is feared rules a territory, but a king who is loved rules an era.
Even in the height of beauty, the pulse of danger remains, a silent vibration that only the vigilant can feel.
The law is a cold pulse, a heartbeat of iron that ensures the scales of the world remain balanced, no matter the cost.
Mercy is the water of the desert, a rare and precious pulse of life that can turn a bitter enemy into a loyal brother.
Focus is the bridge between the will and the world, a single heartbeat of silence before the arrow of destiny is released.
The pulse of the living is a gift from the dead, a rhythmic debt that we pay with every breath of freedom we take. The story of Persia is not a memory, but a pulse, a living, breathing fire that will burn.
The desert is a cruel judge, stripping away the weak, until only the pulse of the resilient remains to face the sun.
A king's true wealth is not measured in the gold he keeps, but in the loyalty he earns through the salt of shared struggle.
To cross the impossible, one must find the rhythm of the water and the steady heartbeat of those who refuse to be swept away.
Strategy is the silent architecture of victory, a mental pulse that constructs the fall of giants before a single sword is drawn.
The pulse of the land is found in the harvest, a cycle of life that the steel of war must eventually learn to serve.
A single whisper of deceit can cloud the clearest vision, turning a banquet of brothers into a theater of shadows.
We are but echoes of the ancients, seeking a pulse of divine guidance in a world that has forgotten the language of the stars.
Innovation is the heartbeat of survival, a constant evolution of the spirit and the tools we use to defend our dreams.
The cold can numb the flesh, but it cannot freeze the fire of a soul that beats for a cause greater than its own breath.
To break a chain is to release a pulse of hope that has been suffocated by the weight of 1,000 years of darkness. Safety is an illusion maintained by the vigilant, a rhythmic dance of shadows that ensures the king sleeps without fear. The night is long, but the pulse of the coming dawn is already vibrating in the earth beneath our very feet.
A law without a heart is but a cage. A law with a pulse is the foundation of a civilization that will never fall.
The ultimate victory is not the conquest of lands, but the education of the mind, the enduring pulse of human thought.
We build against the chaos, creating a pulse of order that allows the fragile flowers of culture to bloom in the valley of peace.
Power is a baton in a long race, a rhythmic passing of the torch that ensures the pulse of the empire never fades.
The sun sets on every empire, but the pulse of its greatness remains etched in the sand for those who know where to look.
The final step is always the hardest, a solitary pulse of courage that determines whether we become a memory or a myth.
Even in death, the pulse remains, a legacy of light that continues to beat in the hearts of those who carry the vision forward.
The pulse of Persia is eternal, a rhythm of freedom and fire that will echo through the halls of history until the end of time.
Stone is the memory of the earth, a rhythmic pulse of grandeur that stands long after the hands that carved it have returned to the dust.
The sword may win the land, but the pen wins the future. A silent pulse of ink that dictates how the world will remember our names.
Peace is a slow harvest, a steady pulse of abundance that requires the patience of a gardener and the heart of a protector. The true measure of an empire is not in the soldiers it can field, but in the beauty it can inspire across the open plains of freedom.
Revival is a quiet pulse, a soft rain of mercy that can heal a land broken by the thunder of 1,000 wars.
To lead is to listen, to find the common pulse in the diverse songs of humanity and weave them into a single, majestic anthem. The pulse of justice is written in clay, a decree of liberty that resonates through the ages like a bell that can never be silenced. Commerce is the heartbeat of diplomacy, a rhythmic exchange of goods and ideas that builds bridges where walls once stood.
Loyalty is a quiet walk, a steady pulse of presence that remains when the cheering crowds have long since faded into the night. Truth is a flame that must be fed with the oil of integrity, a constant pulse of light in a world that is always tempted by the dark.
Time is the only thief we cannot catch, yet it leaves behind a pulse of wisdom that gold can never buy.
A bridge is a promise kept, a physical pulse of connection that allows the heart of the empire to beat across the deepest divides.
Softness is not weakness. It is the pulse of the soul reclaiming its right to exist in a world of iron and fire.
Greatness is not found in the height of the tomb, but in the breadth of the freedom left behind for those who will follow the pulse.
Every story has an ending, a final pulse of the heart, before the legend begins its long journey through the corridors of time.
The pulse is steady now.
The Guardian's work is never truly done, but the heart knows when the pulse of the kingdom is strong enough to beat on its own.
The pulse of Persia is a living fire, passed from the old to the young, ensuring that the light of liberty will never be extinguished.
One man, one woman, and a pulse that changed the world, a legacy of fire, freedom, and the eternal heartbeat of a nation. King's greatest decree is not written in blood, but in the clay of human rights, a pulse of freedom that will resonate for millennia.
The journey of 1,000 battles ends not with a final strike, but with the piece of a map that no longer needs to be redrawn.
True power is the courage to step down, allowing the pulse of the people to become the primary rhythm of the state.
The warrior's spirit is a flame passed from hand to hand, a rhythmic spark that ensures the darkness will never truly win.
A road is a vein of life, carrying the pulse of a nation to its furthest reaches.
We are but water and dust, held together for a brief moment by a pulse of will that dares to challenge the stars.
The struggle is the source of our strength, a rhythmic tension that keeps the soul sharp and the empire vigilant.
History is a pulse that beats in the ink, a living testimony that
The garden of the mind is the only one that truly matters, a pulse of wisdom that outlasts the most beautiful rose.
The silence of a peaceful city is the greatest music a protector can ever hear, a rhythmic lullaby for a heart that has known too much war.
Gold can buy a crown, but only culture can buy a soul, a pulse of creativity that defines the true height of a civilization.
To let go is the final act of the brave, a rhythmic release of control that trusts the future to its own wings.
The pulse of Persia is found in the common bread shared between brothers, a heartbeat of equality that no tyrant can ever replicate.
Faith is the steady pulse of the inner world, a quiet rhythm that guides the hand when the outer world falls into chaos.
An empire is not a place, but a pulse, a shared dream of justice that beats in the hearts of all who call themselves free.
Every pulse of violence must eventually find its rest, settling into the quiet rhythm of a life well lived and a duty well done.
We are the stars we follow, a cosmic pulse of light that guides the world through the long, dark night of history.
The story is not over. It has simply become a pulse.
The king is gone, but the pulse remains, a legacy of fire and light that will never, ever be extinguished.